This message is not an accident. You didn't click this video by coincidence. If you are listening right now, it is because God wanted you to hear this at this exact moment. You may feel tired, confused, or overwhelmed, but heaven is fully aware of your situation. God sees the tears you cry in silence, the prayers you whisper when no one is around, and the strength you show even when you feel like giving up. You may think you have been forgotten, but God says, I have not forgotten you. I am closer than you think. Right now, your life may feel delayed. Doors you prayed for did not open. People you trusted walked away. Plans you were confident about fell apart. And you keep asking God, why is this happening when I tried to do everything right? But God says, I am not punishing you. I am preparing you. What feels like a setback is actually a setup. What feels like silence is God working behind the scenes. Remember, God does His deepest work in the quiet seasons. There are battles you are fighting that no one knows about. Smiles you wear that hide heavy burdens. But God says, I see the real you. He knows how hard you've been trying. He knows how many times you chose faith when fear was louder. And He wants you to know this, your obedience has not gone unnoticed. Your patience is not wasted. Your prayers are stored in heaven. God says, stop doubting yourself because of what you went through. The pain did not destroy you, it refined you. The delay did not deny you, it developed you. What broke you once will not break you again, because now you are stronger, wiser, and closer to me. You survived what you thought would end you, and that alone is proof that God's hand has been on your life. You may be standing in a season where nothing makes sense. But God says, trust me even when you don't understand me. Faith is not trusting God when things are easy. Faith is trusting Him when nothing looks right. Abraham did not see the promise, but he trusted. David did not look. This is not where your story ends. This is where it deepens. God is speaking to the part of you that feels unseen, the part that stayed faithful even when it hurt, the part that wondered if obedience was worth it. God says, I saw you choose me when walking away would have been easier. I saw you keep praying when answers felt distant. I saw you keep loving when your heart was tired. And I want you to know, nothing you did in faith was wasted. There were moments you felt abandoned, moments when heaven felt silent, moments when you questioned whether God was still near. But silence never meant absence. God says, I was closest when you felt me the least. Sometimes God is quiet because He is doing something so detailed, so precise, so important that interruption would delay the process. Seeds grow in silence. Roots strengthen in darkness. And what God is growing in you needed time away from noise. You have been stretched emotionally, spiritually, mentally. And you wondered if you were breaking. But God says, you were expanding. What felt like pressure was preparation. What felt like loss was alignment. I was removing what could not go where you are going. Not everything that leaves your life is a loss. Some things leave because they have fulfilled their purpose. God knows you questioned yourself. You replayed conversations, decisions, and moments where you wondered if you were the problem. God says, stop doubting the work I am doing in you because of the resistance around you. Growth often attracts misunderstanding. Obedience often attracts opposition. But resistance does not mean you are wrong. Sometimes it means you are finally moving in the right direction. Some of you are carrying grief that no one acknowledges. Losses that were never fully processed. Dreams that quietly died while you pretended to be okay. God says, bring that grief to me. You don't have to be strong here. You don't have to explain it perfectly. I understand the language of pain. I understand. God is also healing the way you love. You loved deeply, and it cost you. You trusted, and it wounded you. But God says, do not let pain teach you to close your heart. I am teaching you discernment, not distance. Boundaries, not bitterness. Wisdom, not walls. Love again, but love wisely. Love again, but love with me. There are blessings God has prepared that require a healed identity. If you still see yourself as broken, you will reject what is meant to bless you. So God is reshaping how you see yourself. Not as someone barely surviving, but as someone chosen, strengthened, and guided. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not disqualified. God does not abandon what He anoints. You may feel like your prayers have changed. You don't pray for flashy things anymore. You pray for peace, clarity, stability, healing. That is maturity. God says, you are growing. You are learning what actually matters. You are learning that a quiet heart is more valuable than loud success. You are learning that walking with God is better than running ahead without Him. Some of you are standing at the edge of a major transition. You sense change, but you don't know what it looks like yet. God says, do not rush this moment. Transitions are holy ground. This is where trust is refined. This is where faith becomes action. Stay prayerful. Stay humble. Stay open. I will make the path clear when the time is right. God knows you are tired of explaining your faith to people who mock it, question it, or dismiss it. God says, let your life speak. You don't need to defend me. I am God. Walk in integrity. Walk in love. Walk in truth. And those who are meant to see will see. You may feel lonely in your obedience. Doing the right thing can be isolating. But God says, you are never alone. Heaven stands with you. Angels are assigned to you. Grace surrounds you. You are supported in ways you cannot see. And when the right people arrive, they will recognize the work God has done in you. If you are listening and feeling overwhelmed, hear this promise: God will not give you more than He will give you grace for. Every challenge comes with provision. Every trial comes with strength. Every calling comes with help. You are equipped, even if you don't feel ready. God is inviting you deeper, not into religion, but into relationship. Not into performance, but into presence. Sit with me. Talk to me. Be honest with me. I am not intimidated by your questions. I am not offended by your doubts. I would rather have your honesty than your silence. You are entering a season where old patterns break, where cycles end, where healing replaces hurt, where God is not finished with you. Even now, even here, even after everything you've been through, God is still working. You may feel like you are standing in the middle of uncertainty, but God says, this is not confusion, this is transition. Transitions are uncomfortable because they require you to let go of what was familiar before you fully understand what is coming. But God does not lead without purpose. Every step, even the slow ones, are ordered. You are not weak for feeling tired. You are human. And God never asked you to be endless, He asked you to be faithful. Faithfulness includes resting when you need to, crying when it hurts, and coming back to God again and again even when you don't feel strong. God says, I am not disappointed in you. I am proud of you for staying. There were seasons where you felt overlooked, uncelebrated, underappreciated. You gave your best and received silence in return. But God says, I saw everything. Heaven keeps record differently than people do. What others ignored, God honored. What others dismissed, God preserved. Your obedience mattered even when applause was absent. Some of the hardest moments in your life were not caused by strangers, but by people you trusted. And that hurt deeply. But God says, do not allow betrayal to poison your future. What they did revealed their limitations, not your value. I allowed it not to destroy you, but to redirect you. Some people cannot go where God is taking you, no matter how long they've been with you. You asked God why the process has taken so long. God says, because I care more about who you become than how fast you arrive. If I rushed you, you would arrive unprepared. If I skipped the process, you would collapse under the weight of the blessing. So I refine you. I strengthen you. I mature you. This is not delay. This is mercy. God is also healing your expectations. You expected life to look different by now. You expected prayers to be answered sooner. But God says, my plan is not. Some of you are battling discouragement quietly. You smile, you function, you keep moving, but inside you feel empty. God says, bring that emptiness to me. I fill what the world drains. I restore what life exhausts. I renew what pain depletes. You were never meant to refill yourself alone. God is calling you into deeper trust. Not surface-level belief, but surrender. Trust that does not depend on outcomes. Trust that remains even if things don't change immediately. Trust that says, God, even if I don't understand, I will stay. That kind of trust moves heaven. There is a breakthrough coming, but it will not arrive the way you imagined. God often answers prayers in forms we did not expect so that we learn to recognize Him, not just results. When it comes, it will feel gentle, not dramatic. Peaceful, not chaotic. Clear, not forced. And you will know, it was God. God is also restoring your joy. Not temporary happiness, but deep joy that comes from knowing you are safe in His hands. Joy that does not disappear when circumstances change. Joy that coexists with responsibility, maturity, and even sorrow. This joy is strength. Some of you have been carrying guilt that God never placed on you. You blame yourself for things you did not cause. God says, release that guilt. You are not responsible for everyone's healing. You are not responsible for fixing every broken thing. Your responsibility is obedience. My responsibility is outcome. Jesus understands your struggle more than you realize. He understands rejection. He understands loneliness. He understands being misunderstood. He understands pain. And He walks with you through it. You are not following a distant God. You are walking with a Savior who knows the weight of being human. God is teaching you discernment. You are learning who to listen to, when to speak, and when to stay silent. You are learning that not every battle needs your response. Silence is sometimes strength. Distance is sometimes protection. Peace is all. You are entering a season where God will simplify your life. Less chaos. Fewer distractions. Clearer priorities. Not because life gets easier, but because you get wiser. God removes what drains you so you can focus on what matters. If you feel like you have lost your way, hear this: God knows exactly where you are. You are not lost to Him. Even if you wandered, even if you doubted, even if you stopped praying for a while, God never stopped watching. He never stopped waiting. He never stopped loving. This is a season of alignment. Your heart, your faith, your purpose are being brought back into order. God is untangling confusion. God is breaking unhealthy attachments. God is restoring clarity. What once felt complicated will soon feel simple again. Stay faithful in the small things. Stay honest in the quiet moments. Stay prayerful even when words feel weak. God responds to sincerity, not performance. And remember this: God does not bring you this far to abandon you now. What He started, He will finish. What He promised, He will fulfill. What He allowed, He will redeem. You are still becoming. God is still shaping. And what is ahead will be worth everything it took to get here. Stay with God. He is with you. This is the part where God speaks to your spirit more than your emotions. Because emotions change, but the Spirit remembers truth. God says, you have come too far to turn back now. Even if you feel unsure, even if you feel afraid, even if you feel tired of hoping, this is not the time to retreat. This is the moment to stay grounded. What is ahead of you requires a stronger inner foundation than what you had before. You are learning that God's process is not about speed, it is about depth. Anyone can rise quickly, but not everyone can stay standing when pressure comes. God is building endurance in you. The kind of endurance that doesn't collapse when applause fades. The kind of endurance that stays faithful when the excitement disappears. The kind of endurance that... There were seasons where you asked God to take the pain away, but instead He stayed with you in it. That was not neglect. That was love. God says, if I removed every struggle, you would never discover the strength I placed inside you. Strength is revealed when comfort is removed. Faith becomes real when it is tested. You are beginning to see clearly now. Things that once confused you are starting to make sense. Not fully, but enough to trust God again. God does not always give explanations, but He gives reassurance. And reassurance is often stronger than answers. Some of you are realizing that this is the moment where God asks you to breathe again. Not because everything is finished, but because you are no longer carrying it alone. God says, "You have held on long enough. Now let me hold you." There are seasons when strength looks like pushing forward, and there are seasons when strength looks like surrender. This is a surrender season, not surrendering your faith, but surrendering your fear. You have learned things the hard way. Lessons that did not come from books or sermons, but from nights of wrestling with God, from moments of silence, from waiting when you wanted movement. And God says, those lessons will serve you. Nothing you learned through pain will be wasted. Wisdom earned through suffering becomes protection in the future. You are beginning to understand that God's blessings do not always arrive loudly. Sometimes they arrive as clarity. Sometimes as peace. Sometimes as the courage to walk away from what once controlled you. And sometimes the greatest blessing is that you no longer beg for what God never intended for you. God is releasing you from the need to prove yourself. You don't have to explain your growth. You don't have to defend your healing. You don't have to justify your boundaries. God says, "Let your fruit speak. When I change you, it will show. Quietly. Consistently. Authentically." Some of you have been carrying spiritual weight that was never yours to carry. You took responsibility for other people's choices. You internalized their failures. You blamed yourself for their behavior. God says, lay that down. You are responsible for obedience, not outcomes. You are responsible for love, not control. Jesus understands this better than anyone. He loved perfectly, and people still misunderstood him. He healed, and some still walked away. He gave everything, and he was still rejected. And yet, he did not change who he was. God says, follow his example. Be faithful without becoming bitter. Be loving without becoming weak. Be truthful. This is the phase where God restores confidence, not arrogance, not pride, but quiet confidence rooted in identity. You know who you are now. You know what drains you. You know what matters. You no longer chase what once chased you. You no longer fear being alone because you learned how to stand with God. God is also teaching you discernment in blessings. Not every open door is from me. Not every opportunity is meant for you. Peace will be your confirmation. Confusion will be your warning. If you have to force it, manipulate it, or compromise your values for it, it is not mine. Some of you are about to receive what you prayed for in a different form than you expected. And God says, don't reject it just because it looks unfamiliar. Growth changes perspective. Healing changes preference. What you wanted before may not be what you need now. You are stepping into a season where your prayers become simpler but deeper. Less words, more trust. Less anxiety, more surrender. You no longer pray to convince God. You pray because you know He hears you. That is maturity. God is also softening your heart again. Not making you naive, but making you compassionate. Pain tried to harden you. Disappointment tried to close you. But God says, let me soften you without breaking you. A healed heart is not a guarded heart, it is a wise one. You are learning to forgive without reopening doors that harmed you. Forgiveness releases you, boundaries protect you. God honors both. You are not unloving for choosing peace. You are not faithless for choosing distance. Even Jesus withdrew from certain people. This is where breakthrough becomes internal before it becomes visible. You think you are waiting on God, but God says, I have been waiting on your heart to rest. Rest does not mean inactivity. It means trust without tension, effort without anxiety, faith without panic. There is a calm settling over your life now. Not because everything is solved, but because you finally believe God is faithful. God is releasing you from comparison. Other people's pace no longer intimidates you. Other people's success no longer threatens you. You are secure in your lane. You trust God's timing for your life. That is freedom. Some of you are about to become an answer to someone else's prayer. Not through preaching, but through presence. Through empathy. Through understanding. Through testimony. God says, what you survived will help someone else breathe again. Jesus did not rush his ministry. He waited. He prayed. He listened. And when the time came, he moved with authority and compassion. God says, move like that. Don't rush what requires prayer. Don't speak what requires wisdom. Don't decide what requires patience. You may still feel nervous about the future. That's okay. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is moving forward with God despite fear. And God promises this, I will not leave you halfway. I will not guide you to abandon you. This is not a season of striving. This is a season of alignment. Where your thoughts, your faith, and your actions begin to agree. Where you stop fighting yourself. Where you stop doubting every step. Where you trust the God who carried you this far. If you are listening and your heart feels lighter than before, that is not emotion. That is release. God is lifting burdens you were never meant to carry forever. You are allowed to hope again. Carefully. Wisely. Faithfully. Stay open. Stay prayerful. Stay grounded. Because what comes next will require the peace you now carry, the wisdom you now have, and the faith you fought to keep. God is with you. Jesus walks ahead of you. And the breakthrough you feared was delayed is being released in the right way, at the right time, for the right reason. This is not the end. This is the beginning of a steadier, deeper, God-led life. Jesus did not chase validation. He walked in obedience. And God honored him openly. God says, walk like that. Stay humble. Stay grounded. Stay prayerful. I will handle the recognition. This season will feel lighter, but do not confuse lightness with carelessness. Stay anchored. Stay disciplined. Stay connected to God. What keeps you in blessing is not talent, but dependence on God. If you are listening and feel hope rising, that is because God is confirming something in your spirit. He is saying, yes, you are moving forward. Not perfectly. Not fearlessly. But faithfully. Your testimony will not be about how strong you were, but about how faithful God was when you were weak. About how He stayed when others. In the quiet stretch of days that followed, he learned to live with a heart that no longer argued with itself. The inner noise that once demanded answers had softened into remembrance. He woke before dawn, not out of habit, but out of gratitude, feeling the stillness of the world as a sign that God is near to those who seek Him sincerely. Each prayer felt like a conversation without performance, a meeting without witnesses. He discovered that the truest acts of worship are often unseen, carried silently between a servant and his Lord. He began to notice how clarity reshapes time. The rush he once felt, to explain, to convince, to respond, no longer controlled him. He allowed moments to pass without filling them with words. In that patience, he sensed a deeper wisdom, that truth does not need constant defense, it needs consistent living. He focused on aligning intention with action, knowing that small, sincere deeds weigh heavy in the sight of God. He reflected on the meaning of legacy and understood that it is not measured by how many remember your name, but by how much peace you leave behind. He chose kindness in disagreement, silence over sarcasm, and restraint over reaction. When challenged, he answered gently or not at all. He trusted that God sees the effort to remain upright when provoked. This restraint did not weaken him, it strengthened him. At times, he sat alone with Scripture, reading slowly, thoughtfully, letting verses shape character rather than fuel debate. He sought lessons that build humility, not ammunition for argument. He believed that the purpose of revelation is transformation, not triumph. When he encountered passages about mercy, he paused longer. When he read warnings about arrogance, he examined himself first. This inward focus kept his faith alive and honest. He became attentive to the fragile moments in others, the hesitation in a question, the fear behind a smile, the doubt hidden beneath confidence. He listened more than he spoke. He remembered. As seasons changed, he felt a growing certainty that life's value lies in direction, not duration. Whether long or short, a life aimed toward God carries meaning. He did not postpone goodness or delay repentance. He lived as though today mattered, because it did. He learned to apologize quickly, forgive freely, and let go easily. Each release felt like another step closer to God. In moments of weakness, he returned to the simplest prayer he knew, asking for sincerity. He feared hypocrisy more than hardship. He understood that the heart can drift even while the body performs rituals. This awareness kept him vigilant. He checked his motives, corrected himself gently, and sought forgiveness often. He trusted that God's mercy is vast, but he never took it lightly. He thought again of the beginning, how love had started everything. Love that questioned. Love that searched. Love that refused to pretend. That love had matured into steadiness. It no longer burned with urgency, it glowed with conviction. He believed that this is what faith becomes when it survives fear, quiet, firm, and rooted. When people crossed his path, some recognized his past, others knew nothing of it. To him, it no longer mattered. He did not introduce himself through stories. He let conduct speak. He believed that the truest testimony is character that remains consistent when no one is watching. He found freedom in being ordinary, faithful, and unseen. As he prepared for whatever remained of his journey, he carried a calm readiness. Not an eagerness for the end, but a trust in it. He knew that returning to God is not a loss, but a meeting long awaited. He hoped to arrive with a heart unburdened by regret, having chosen honesty when it mattered. And so, without fanfare, without final speeches, he continued, placing one sincere step after another. A former priest, yes, but more importantly, a servant who listened when truth whispered. A man whose love for Jesus taught him obedience to God. A soul content. And when the night grew quiet, when the world felt distant and time slowed down, he sat with a heart that no longer searched. The questions that once kept him awake had done their work and left him with certainty that did not shout, but stayed. He understood now that truth does not always arrive like thunder. Sometimes it comes like a whisper that refuses to leave. He realized that the greatest victory of his life was not changing a religion, but refusing to betray his conscience. Not proving something to others, but remaining honest before God. He had learned that faith is not about standing above people, but standing exposed before the Creator with nothing hidden. In those final reflections, he felt no need to defend his journey. God knew it. That was enough. He trusted that every sincere step, every fearful question, every lonely prayer had been seen. He believed that the God who guided him through confusion would also receive him with mercy. He thought once more of Jesus, not with debate, not with tension, but with peace. Jesus had shown him how to bow, how to obey, how to surrender. Following that example had led him home. And home, he understood, was never a place or a title, it was alignment with God. As his breath slowed and his thoughts softened, one truth rested quietly in his heart, that choosing truth may cost you the world, but it gives you yourself back. And giving yourself back to God is the only success that lasts. So the story ends not with noise, not with argument, not with victory or defeat, but with surrender. A soul at rest. A conscience clear. A servant ready. And in that silence, there was peace. What remained after everything was not a label, not a story, not even a memory, but a direction. A direction toward God that no longer wavered. He understood that life does not ask us to be loud, it asks us to be true. And truth, once chosen, asks only one thing in return: steadfastness. He carried that steadiness quietly, like a lamp protected from wind, small but unwavering. He knew now that the most important moments are the unseen ones, when no one is watching and the heart chooses honesty anyway. Those moments build a soul. Those moments prepare a return. He trusted that God values effort over perfection, sincerity over appearance, and humility over certainty. That trust settled him completely. If anyone were to learn from his journey, he hoped it would be this: do not silence the question that calls you closer to God. Do not fear the truth that asks you to change. And do not confuse comfort with guidance. God is nearer than fear, and mercy is wider than regret. So he walked on, without announcements, without explanations, content to be known by God alone. When the final step comes, he believed it would feel familiar, like placing the forehead down one last time, surrendering everything back to the one who gave it. And that, he believed, is how a journey truly ends, not with certain